Listen up, boys and girls, fathers and mothers, I will tell you about a very specific and beautiful car. So you better sit back, grab something to drink and enjoy. Unfortunately, in order for us to get the full picture, we do need some history here, guys. But it'll be super brief, 2-minute tops, so bear with me.
Oh, don't cry, are you?
In the 1920s, the term GDM weren't really a thing. You see, while brands like Mitsubishi did produce a few cars, majority of cars sold in Japan weren't Japanese, they were American. Since the Japanese lacked the mass-producing capabilities as the US had, and American cars for a long time made up majority of car sales in Japan, up until one certain point in history. Enter World War II. When everyone and their mothers started producing weapons, machinery and military vehicles.
One of the factories in this town celebrated an event. The manufacture of the 250,000th 50 caliber machine gun for the armed forces.
At that point, car manufacturers weren't even allowed to produce anything but tools, assets and military vehicles in an effort to contribute to the war efforts. But it was after the war ended the damage started to show. When the World War II ended, a lot of things were different. The most significant thing was that the Japanese were poor. Their GDP had taken a massive hit because of the war efforts. The Japanese couldn't really afford to purchase luxuries such as cars. And even more frustrating, the cars that were available weren't even Japanese made, they were American, which they had fought against in the war. There was no way on earth that the Japanese would purchase American cars after the war. So, of course, they had to come up with a solution. And they did, introducing the K car. Now, there's a lot of things you can say about the K car, but to cut things short, it is basically a super tiny, lightweight car with a small engine with great fuel mileage and low taxes. But if you're interested more in detail, I actually have an article covering what the K car is on my website. I'll leave a link in the description. The K car was very successful. They sold in massive quantities and became the most sold car in Japan. Meaning, this domestically produced car had overtaken the American Giant as the most popular choice. And that of course also meant imports from the US was reduced significantly. The Japanese had succeeded in their goal. After being able to clearly see that the K car was a success, Japanese manufacturers such as Honda decided to experiment a little bit with a similar layout. But instead of producing a commuter's car, they wanted to produce a sports car. Enter the Honda S800. The S800 was Honda's first S-chassis and was also their first step into the performance market. The S800 was a lightweight and rear-wheel drive roadster/coupe. It featured a manual transmission and superb handling, and best of all, an incredibly rev-happy engine. We're talking 10,000 RPM redline. And at the time, this was what people thought of when mentioning Honda performance vehicles. And in fact, at the time, the S800 was often considered as one of the greatest sports car of all time. Now that you have a little understanding of what the S-chassis is and how it originated, we fast forward to 1999. Honda drops the biggest bomb of the year. The S2000 had entered the show, the first new S-chassis from Honda in almost 40 years. And they used the same recipe which made the old S800 so successful. In the heart of the beast lays their all brand new F20C engine. 2 liters, VTEC, 9000 RPM redline and 247 horsepower. Now, getting a bunch of horsepower from a natural aspirated engine is difficult, but Honda outdid themselves. In fact, the F20C set a new world record for highest horsepower per liter, achieving 125 horsepower per liter, and would not be beaten until 11 years later by a supercar that cost almost 4 times as much, the Ferrari 458. And even though the engine was a large part of the S2000, it wasn't all about the engine. It also had rear-wheel drive, an LSD as standard, and a fantastic 6-speed manual transmission. And here is where the S2K starts to come together. You see, Honda is basically tied with Porsche on making the greatest manual transmissions in the industry, and the 6-speed in the S2K is no exception. Tie that together with maybe one of the greatest modern day engines of all time, and you got something going for yourself. And then you have the design, the styling. Wow, when you look at this car, it's hard to tell that it's nearing 25 years old. It looks good from any direction. Unlike me. Despite being a major success and majority of enthusiasts praising this new S chassis from Honda, there was one country in particular that did not deem the S2000 as great as everyone else. I'm talking about the United States of America. America did not like the S2K.
My name is Billy and I'm from Mississippi, and I just want to say, like, goddamn, what is this monstrosity? I want maximum torque at 1000 RPM and tops a 3500 RPM redline. Like, goddamn, what is this, 9000 RPM? Hell nah, get real then.
And the thing with the F20C and any other VTEC engine, you basically had 0 power up until around 6000 RPM, in which the VTEC keyed in yo.
What about the VTEC? VTEC all day!
But for some reason, the Americans didn't seem to fully understand VTEC. Or maybe they just didn't like it. The thing is, the S2000 was not a commuter's car. It was not meant to be driven at low RPMs, unlike American V8s. But because the Americans had such a dislike for this new engine, the revised S2000, the AP2, saw a significant decrease in the redline from 9000 to 8200 RPM, and torque increased from 208 Nm to 220. And still, the AP2 was still a phenomenal car, it just unfortunately lost a bit of character. And please, don't worry Americans, we still love you and your food and your LS engines. And time heals everything. So in today's day and age, AP1 or AP2, it doesn't matter. The S2000 has become an icon. It was the best of its kind, but also the last. Today we get news of the very latest sports and supercars, and they are all, slowly but surely, becoming electric. But the S2000 helps us remember the good times, a time of simplicity and perfection. And thus, I salute you, S2000, because in my eyes, you are goddamn beautiful.